Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan video. In this video we are going to take a look at how you can beat Cooler in the Wicked Bloodlines Red Zone. So guys, basically this Cooler is a pretty interesting unit, obviously, or interesting stage I should say. So the main thing with this Cooler that you need to understand is that the first phase starts off pretty rough. Cooler will hit for around 700 to 800,000 with his super attack, which is pretty high. Not to mention he will also stun your unit, which is also a bit of a problem. And there's no coinciding relevance between his stage and the next one, which means you can't bring a whole bunch of tech units to survive this stage, let them stack, and then handle the int phase super easily. Now, there are some obvious mechanics to take note of here. So in terms of this fight itself, the first phase Cooler will stun, which is, a little bit irritating. It's not the most annoying thing in the world, but it is relatively irritating. It can, cause a little bit of headaches, at least for some people. So Cooler will stun you. Like I said, he will hit for around 800,000, and also obviously he's immune to attack lowering and defense lowering. The second phase against the int Cooler, that Cooler does not stun, so things get a little bit easier there, but I wouldn't say that they get overtly way easier. In terms of overarching difficulty or anything like that, I think Cooler can actually be pretty tough. I personally find him to be quite a challenge. I think he's a little bit of a menace. I think he can definitely be quite challenging overall. So for me, I'm not the biggest fan of this fight against Cooler. I think he's quite rough. And I think he can generally be a bit challenging for most people's boxes. Something that causes the issues is, like I said, it is relatively challenging, not impossible, but it is a little bit harder to bring tech type units into the first phase. So generally what you can do as a strategy, if you want, is you can obviously bring some tech type units, but generally speaking, I would say it's a lot easier to take on the event bringing physical type units, because physical type units will not have a type disadvantage in the first phase, and they will have a type advantage in the second phase. And now the second phase can take you by quite surprise. Cooler hits pretty hard. I think his super is 1.3 million, which is obviously quite high. And generally speaking, you want to try and counteract that with type advantage, evasion, damage reduction of some kind. Now, evasion is an effective strategy here because evasion is not locked under any means, so you can definitely use evasive units. As you can see, I'm using Jason Berta, and they themselves are a pretty reliable way to counteract this fight. Also, generally speaking, the ability to foresee super attacks is also quite helpful. It is something that's going to pretty much give you a decent time against Cooler. Now, of course, one thing I would like to point out, so the reason why I have left this fight so late is because Cooler is currently, or not currently anymore, but Cooler was bugged when he first came out. So originally when Cooler came out, he was bugged. There was obviously issues with him on Dbz Dokkan battle, and when you got to his int phase, he actually didn't super attack at all. So basically, once you got to the int phase, you were essentially, done with the fight. As long as you didn't die from normal attacks, you were basically done with the fight, and you could just kind of let it autoplay itself out. Now they've fixed that, and he does fire super attacks, and those super attacks hit pretty hard. So I thought it would be a lot better representation showing a team complete the fight with obviously the ability to take out Cooler with him firing super attacks, because you can then take any team in and you're like, oh, okay, cool, this team's just handling it perfectly fine, no need to worry. Meanwhile, someone else will come in, try and copy that build and get smoked now because Cooler is actually firing super attacks. So it's a very, very different story. Overall, the Ginyu Force team is what I went with. I have tried the Goku's family team. It did do alright, but it can be a little bit slow, especially since some of the units there are strength based, being the strongest units. So looking at like Goku Gohan, looking at the Goku Gohan exchange unit, the strength Namek Goku, they're very, very strong units that once you get going you should be fine, because obviously they develop guard and they develop a lot of high defense. But a lot of runs were ended quite early because of the fact that essentially I was basically playing from behind, because I would get hit with a super attack and then I would either die instantly because the wrong strength unit gets hit with the super attack, or basically I would end up being so low on health it would be very hard to recover, because a lot of other teams don't have heals, which is quite a concern. So obviously if you're looking at the Ginyu Force team, you have quite a lot of double benefits. So you have the double heal from both Ginyu, obviously, when they transform. As you can see, I used that last turn, so that I could obviously heal up and be ready for the next one. But talking plainly, I think the Ginyu Force is again just one of those teams that's well equipped for these kind of fights where they counterbalance the first and second phases. It's just the strength of the team, the ability of the team to have a lot of guard, a lot of high defense, a lot of evasion, but also especially for this stage, the reason why the Ginyu Force does so well is they have the LR physical Ginyu, which is a very, very strong LR unit that is obviously physical type. Now, that is quite a significant factor in regards to how well they perform in this fight specifically, because obviously we are getting that additional bonus from having such a strong array of physical characters. Raccoon as well, very solid option. Obviously you need him to build up his stacks, but the physical typing does indeed help us quite a bit. And then you can always supplement the team with units like AGL Golden Frieza, who again does do a fantastic job, just tanking up, doing very well. As long as you remain above 40% health, you can very easily use AGL Golden Frieza on any team, and he just tanks so superbly. So you'll see here he evades the attack, which is obviously helpful in its own right. But yeah, generally speaking, having a unit like him is very, very solid. You can see, we obviously see where the super attacks are coming from. That's another perk of using a Ginyu team based build. We have the ability to see where those super attacks are coming from. So we all of a sudden just have a lot more control over the battlefield, over the course of the turn. We make sure that we place our AGL Golden Frieza in the first slot, and then place the Strength, Raccoon and Gildo in the final slot. This is just to prevent the most damage possible. We're not too concerned about anything else. We literally just want to prevent as much damage as possible, and that enables us to have a relatively simple time here. So between all of that, we do quite a sizable amount of damage, which I think is very, very good. And you now come to this rotation, we have a lot of support on the rotation. There is a chance that the ability to force these super attacks has not procced, and so we could be taken by surprise by a super attack. But at the end of the day, it's a lot better to say that you have the ability than not. So at this point, we do okay. You can see there Ginyu tanks pretty well. He's not, generally speaking, a unit you want to tank before he fires the super attack, but because he has the type advantage, we can kind of let it occur, and his super attack effect is going to actually increase the overall performance of the rest of the units on the rotation. So at this point we should be more than fine for this rotation. If we get hit by a super attack, there is a chance that we will probably die, but at the same time, it is the risk you take. But we are very fortunate that it never actually even gets to that stage. We have the AGL Ginyu, who is very well built up, basically take out Cooler, and all of a sudden we're done. So in just the short matter of 3 or 4 turns from the second phase, we are able to be done, and it's solely through the brute strength of Captain Ginyu as a unit. So it can take you a little bit of luck. A lot of the times, I think 2 or 3 times the run was ended early, because yeah, before we could stack or build defense, we'd be supered. But generally speaking, it all played out pretty fine. But that's gonna be it from me. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So until then, take care, stay safe, and bye.